Good morning, Dan and Amy, and we've talked about brain injuries related to sports. We've talked about brain injuries related to military service, PTSD, CTE. Of course, we had this discussion just recently, unfortunately, with the terrible news that Steve McMichael, the Bears great, had been diagnosed with ALS, and talking about some of the research out of Boston University that links repeated concussions to a higher incidence of ALS, which we've seen in football players, not just Steve McMichael, but of course Gleason, yes, as well as others, former Oakland Raiders running back, his name is escaping me now, and even going back to Lou Gehrig. It's really interesting. And so the continued research in this area and the development of treatments, or even better, cures, continues to be a hot topic, as it should be. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Eric Stoffers, who's a pioneer and innovator in the area of stem cell therapy, research and founder of BioXcellerator, a leading stem cell therapy and research company. And he has, per his stem cell therapy project, a lot to say on the topic. Eric, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Dan and Amy.
So what does stem cell therapy and sort of the research that you're doing as an entrepreneur, ostensibly with a team of medical researchers, what promise does it hold for those suffering from PTSD or CTE?
Yeah, there's some very, very promising results, and, there's still some early stage development, but essentially, stem cell therapy in general helps promote healing. And it does things like improve immunity, and really what it does is amplify your body's own natural ability to fight disease and heal more quickly. And what we've been able to do at our company is really harness the focus of those stem cells and the focus of the amplification to fighting things that are more neurological in nature. So we do that through an intrathecal application, which is a little bit more invasive than what you're seeing around the world and with other companies. But what that essentially does is it helps combat things like ALS. Potentially, ALS is a much tougher position, so that's very, very early on. But you had mentioned PTSD and some of the things that we see in our high-impact athletes, like our NFL players and our UFC fighters. And we see this, unfortunately, a lot with veterans as well, because they're receiving multiple concussions on sometimes a daily basis. But we target the stem cells to directly go into the spinal column to pass the blood-brain barrier and work on the brain.
Wow. And does it reduce the swelling in the brain?
Yeah, that at its at its basic sense, what the stem cell does is it modulates your immune system. But to your point, Amy, is it also reduces inflammation, which is your body's own natural, signaling to start fighting disease and healing. But yes, it reduces inflammation, and that's the core of what it does for the neurological conditions.
And so, what is it that you've identified that has been missed up until this point?
Well, as far as some of the things that we're talking about, treating PTSD with veterans, the CTE, the potential treatment of CTE, unfortunately, that is something that is still pretty much only diagnosed post-mortem. But there are symptoms that go along with it, and there are symptoms that mimic PTSD. But really what it is it's traumatic brain injury. And it's either multiple mild traumatic brain injuries or, maybe one. We see a lot of major trauma as well. And so what that does is it starves the brain for oxygen. The brain is essentially rattling around in your head, causing that trauma. And then it creates an incredible amount of inflammation, which does not allow the brain to heal properly. And so by reducing that inflammation and then also sending sometimes hundreds of millions of new pure and potent stem cells into the brain to start repairing the brain and fighting the inflammation, really it's stimulating your body to do its own natural work. Your body is still the miracle. We're just accelerating that, so to speak.
And there's a specific stem cell from a piece in Maxim. There's a specific stem cell that you're utilizing.
Use the mesenchymal stem cell, and we do that through sourcing of the umbilical cord, and there's a specific piece on the umbilical cord. It's a really small 2-inch by 2-inch piece called a Whartons jelly piece. But this is, non-controversial. This is healthy moms and healthy babies going home and living healthy lives together. They donate the cord to great scientific companies like ours, and we're able to use those pure and potent stem cells to help, in some cases, thousands of people with just one cord.
Well, that's good because I still have 2. If we want to donate to you, can we? I got 2 from my children, or should we save those for down the road?
Yeah, our process is pretty strict, so we have to know a lot about the mother and the father, and a lot of testing that goes into it long before we ever take a cord for donation. So I'm afraid that our company probably wouldn't take yours, but for your own family, it might work.
It probably doesn't help that she just keeps the 2 in the freezer. The punky QP known as McMahon, who has documented a case of a brain injury and the resulting quality of life degeneration. He's a lot of profile on that, and there should be. He's involved in this project in some material way.
One of our patients, and so he's involved in the sense that he came down to our main treatment facility in Medellin, Colombia. He received the exact treatment that we're discussing, an intrathecal application of mesenchymal stem cells, and I believe he's on the docket to come back. I don't know his exact protocol. I'm not I'm not a physician at all.
Right.
On the business side, but I do have contact with Jim. I live out here in Scottsdale where he is, and he was going to join us today, but a little scheduling conflict. He'll come on next time if we're lucky enough to be on. And he's involved in the sense that he's a patient.
Well, do you know how it has changed his life?
Yeah, I do have some reports on that. I mean, he initially had some memory improvement. So there was a cognitive improvement with things like memory, and I believe there was also some mood stabilization that was important to him and his better half. And that's typically how we end up first seeing our athletes. Is it's typically their wives or better, their family members that report some mood issues and some things that mimic PTSD. But we're going to do a case study on him, and like I said, he's coming back, and we're going to be writing up a pretty thorough medical journal on his case.
For other patients that have accessed this treatment, I remember from McMahon, so this is not limited to him, but it's a good example. Also, the headaches, the blurry vision problems associated with the brain injury, are those things that you've seen improvement either with McMahon or with other patients?
Patients that were a little bit further along in the process. Matt Hughes, who is a very famous world champion UFC fighter, had a major, I'm sure through his career he had multiple concussions, but he had a major accident where he had traumatic brain injury because he was in a train accident. And so we've seen some fantastic improvements with him, motor skills, the blurry vision, the sensitivity to light, the cognitive improvement with the memory. So him and many, many others have definitely seen some improvement. So symptoms that you're talking about.
And so what's the process of pursuing this medical innovation and making it marketable, or I don't know, since it's so popular these days, maybe getting emergency use authorization from the FDA for the treatment? What's that process?
Good news is that the FDA has authorized this for compassionate care and emergency use authorization. We and other companies like ours have had clinical trials approved by the FDA through, and ours is approved through our equivalent of the FDA in Colombia, but the FDA has also approved clinical trials for research on COVID with stem cells. And so we know that they can fast track the approvals for things like the COVID vaccine or even stem cell clinical trials, but they're not doing it for a lot of indications that we would like to start helping people for here in the United States. It works fantastic for orthopedic injuries and autoimmune disease and things like neurological conditions. So the process is still very cumbersome. It could take decades, unfortunately, under the current process through the FDA.
And are you performing these in the United States, or did I hear you correctly say Colombia, as in South America?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, unfortunately, look, the FDA is a fantastic organization. They're here to protect us. They protect Americans every day, so they're just. I think they're a little bit behind in their regulation on stem cells because in science, in the scientific community, there is no longer a debate on whether or not stem cells are both safe and effective. And so, in my company, companies like mine are doing this every day. But unfortunately, to your point, Amy, yes, we have to perform the highest level science, meaning we want the best results for our patients. You have to go offshore, unfortunately, for this technology right now.
And you made a comment in a piece that your goal, it's beyond treating people with PTSD or traumatic brain injuries. Your goal is to make 100 years old the new 60 years old. And this is, I assume, all about the body's ability to repair and recover.
So, unfortunately, we mostly see patients that are suffering from some type of chronic pain or injury or neurological condition. But we do have a lot of people that are educating themselves. They know that there is technology that is offshore. And so they're doing this as more of a preventative measure. And, what we've dedicated our company to in our efforts is improving people's lives and promoting healing. So we have people that are coming in for systemic rejuvenation, we call it, but it's a health optimization and immunity and longevity booster shot, so to speak.
And so I mean, and this is important too. This is not just about extending people's life. It's also about improving their quality of life while you're extending it.
I mean, the extending of people's lives, I don't know. We can have this interview in 40 years and we'll see, we'll see how we do on that. But the theory in science is certainly that longevity is a piece of this. But the most important part is definitely what you're mentioning. It's making the more advanced years better, just feeling better and living a healthier lifestyle into the later years.
He is Eric Stoffers, international pioneer and innovator in the areas of stem cell therapy, as he was describing, and founder of BioXcellerator, leading stem cell therapy and research company. Eric, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be watching to see how your company and this treatment develops. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook or read about it in the